There are seasons in life when a person no longer cries and no longer complains, not because everything is okay, but because exhaustion has gone beyond emotion itself. You still wake up every morning. You still step outside wearing the same familiar face. You still fulfill your role in this world, and yet, somewhere very deep inside, a part of you has quietly folded inward. It doesn't hurt in a dramatic way. It feels heavy, slow, like a long afternoon that refuses to let the sunlight fade. Pisces, you are the kind of soul who rarely allows yourself to fall apart in front of others. You endure well, not because you are numb, but because you understand other people's pain too clearly. You choose silence, so no one feels uncomfortable. You choose patience to keep the peace. You step back so things can stay calm. And because of that, very few people realize how far you have traveled without ever having a place to truly rest. Sometimes you wonder why you are always the one who understands, yet so rarely the one who is fully understood. Why you are the place where others release their sorrow, but when you need something to lean on, everything feels strangely empty. You don't blame anyone. You don't resent life. You just feel a quiet kind of wearing down, deep and gentle, like a lamp that is still lit, but no longer gives off enough warmth. It is in this exact state, when you no longer have the strength to explain yourself or justify what you feel, that a sacred presence reaches you quietly. No noise, no judgment, no demands, only a clear recognition that you have been trying for far too long without ever truly resting. Saint Michael does not come because you begged. He comes because the quiet sincerity within you has become strong enough to be heard. Some souls do not need many words to be seen, and you are one of them. Your energy carries the fatigue of those who have always placed others first. It carries kindness that has been taken for granted, sacrifice that was treated as something expected, and yet it also carries something deeply beautiful, a heart that has not closed, even after many disappointments. This moment does not come to make you stronger. It comes to remind you that gentleness is also a form of strength, that admitting you are overwhelmed is not weakness, but honesty with yourself. You do not need to prove anything anymore. You do not need to keep pushing to deserve love or recognition. Somewhere very close, there is an unseen assurance meant just for you, a soft reminder that nothing you have endured has been forgotten. Your quiet steps, the times you chose silence instead of hurting someone else, all of it has been acknowledged in ways you do not need to see right now. And as you begin to let your breath slow, as you stop asking why everything feels so heavy, something different starts to appear. Not an explosion, but a strange, unfamiliar calm, as if someone is standing just behind you, not pushing, not pulling you anywhere, simply being there, close enough that you no longer feel you have to hold yourself up alone. And it is in that feeling, as your defenses slowly begin to soften, that something very familiar rises within you. Old memories, moments when everything fell apart in ways you never expected. You looked back at them carrying so many questions, and the biggest one was always this: where did I go wrong? If only I had done a little better, tried a little harder, endured just a little more. Maybe things would not have turned out this way. You carried that thought far, so far that it quietly became a belief, that you were responsible even for things that were never fully in your control. But when the silence grows deep enough, another perspective begins to open. You start to realize that not every crack comes from a mistake. Some things break simply because they have been carrying too much weight for far too long. And many times, you were the one standing there, quietly, offering your shoulder, never stopping to ask whether you still had the strength to hold it all. You became used to taking on the hardest part. So used to it that you stopped knowing the difference between responsibility and unnecessary sacrifice. That sacred presence remains there, not interfering, not speaking on your behalf, only gently illuminating the details you never allowed yourself to look at directly before. You begin to see more clearly what you have been carrying without realizing it. Other people's emotions, unspoken expectations, responsibilities that were never given to you, yet somehow became yours. You carried them like a debt, believing that if you let go, everything would collapse. But the truth is this: many of those things were never yours to carry in the first place. In that moment, no judgment appears, only a very clear understanding that you do not need to keep holding up the entire world to prove your worth, that your kindness is not measured by how much you can endure, that setting things down is not giving up. It is restoring natural order to what has been out of balance for far too long. You may feel a subtle lightness, like a heavy backpack being removed after a long journey. Not everything disappears right away, but your shoulders are no longer as tight as before. Your breath grows a little deeper, and in that quiet space, you realize something important. Some pain does not come to punish you. It comes to show you where you have been giving too much while forgetting yourself. Gentleness begins to return in a very different form, no longer as softness that leaves you exposed, but as awareness that helps you recognize which boundaries deserve respect. You do not need to explain this to anyone. You do not need to make it loud, as long as you understand, as long as you allow yourself to set down what no longer belongs to you. That alone is enough for a new order to begin forming, and as you stand still in that moment, no longer rushing, to blame yourself, no longer trying to fix everything with your own strength, you begin to feel something shifting inside, as if an unseen hand is quietly helping you reorganize things, slowly, steadily, so you no longer have to carry nameless burdens on the road ahead. And as those burdens no longer press down on your shoulders in the same way, you begin to notice a very quiet truth. For a long stretch of your life, you were always the one standing out front, arms open, before even knowing whether you still had the strength to hold everything together. You were the one who stayed after everyone else had already left, the one who listened until other people ran out of words, while your own story was never fully told. You became used to being a place of shelter, so used to it that you can no longer remember the last time someone asked you if you were truly okay. There were moments when you told yourself you did not need anyone to protect you, that you were strong enough, mature enough, understanding enough to stand on your own. But deep inside, there has always been a very real part of you quietly longing to lean on someone, just once, without worrying that it would become a burden to them. You learned how to protect others, but you were never really taught how to be protected in a way that feels complete. And then, in that very deep stillness, you begin to sense another presence, not imposing, not controlling, not asking you to change or become stronger than you already are. Just a clear feeling that you no longer have to stand on the front line alone, that there is an unseen support there, not living your life for you, but steady enough that you no longer have to brace yourself against every emotional wave the way you once did. You start to notice it through very small changes, a different reaction to situations that once felt familiar, a pause before you rush to take responsibility for things that are not yours, a strange sense of calm when you choose not to step into matters that were never within your space to hold. These changes are not loud, they are not dramatic, but they carry a very clear message. You are beginning to be supported in a way you never allowed yourself before. Perhaps for the first time, you do not feel the need to prove that you deserve to stay, to be loved, to be respected. You no longer have to sacrifice anything more just to keep everything intact. The protection you are feeling does not come from someone doing things for you. It comes from you no longer having to do everything for everyone else. And within that space, you begin to understand something essential. True connection never requires you to disappear so others can feel safe. You are no longer on constant alert, no longer guessing what you should say, where you should stay silent, how much you should endure. A very gentle boundary is beginning to form, not to push anyone away, but to keep you whole. And as that boundary grows steady, you realize you were never as alone as you once believed. You had simply walked for too long without turning back to see who was truly walking beside you. Now, as you allow yourself to stand still in this moment, without defense, without trying to please anyone, you begin to feel a very new kind of reassurance. Not because everything is perfect, but because you know you are no longer fighting on your own. And from that quiet point of support, something inside you is slowly beginning to open, preparing you to touch a truth you never felt safe enough to reach before. And it is from this very new sense of safety, when you no longer feel the need to defend yourself against the world, that something else begins to stir quietly inside you. Not fear, not pressure, but a very subtle awareness, like morning light slipping through a curtain, not blinding, just enough to let you see the room you are standing in more clearly. There is something you have known for a long time, known through intuition, through a deep feeling in your chest, but you chose to let it rest there, unnamed, unfaced. You were not avoiding it out of weakness. You were protecting yourself. You understood that some truths, when touched too early, only deepen the wound. You have lived long enough to know that truth does not always need to be exposed all at once. Some things require time. They require support. They require a sense of safety, so that when they finally open, they do not knock you down. And so you waited. Not in fear, but in a very instinctive form of self-preservation. Now, as your breathing slows, as you no longer stand alone against waves of emotion, that truth begins to show itself in a different way. It does not rush toward you. It does not force you to look straight at it. It is simply there, a little clearer, a little softer. You can feel it in ordinary moments, when you hear a familiar sentence and no longer react the way you used to, when you look back at an old relationship and realize you misunderstood your role in it, when you finally see that some things you tried so hard to hold on to were never truly yours to begin with. That sacred presence continues to walk beside you, quietly, without urging you to name anything, only light being opened, just enough. So you no longer have to guess your way through the dark. You do not need forced courage. You do not need to become stronger. You only need to look with gentler eyes, with a heart that is now being supported. And that is enough for fear to lose the control it once had over you. You begin to understand that truth does not come to take anything away. It comes to return you to wholeness, what once confused you, what once made you doubt your own worth. Gradually loses its weight, not because it disappears, but because you are standing in a different place now. You no longer see life from the position of someone merely enduring. You see it from the place of someone who understands. And when that understanding arrives, it carries a feeling that is hard to name, light yet deep. You may feel your heart soften for a moment, not from pain, but because you are finally allowing yourself to feel what has long been held inside. Memories may return, old images, questions that were never answered. But this time, you are not facing them alone. You do not need to reassure yourself that everything will be okay. You only need to stay, to breathe evenly, and allow the light to do its work. You begin to see that when truth is touched with gentleness, it is no longer frightening. It becomes like an old friend, once misunderstood, now finally seen clearly. And in that moment, something deeply human takes place. You understand that everyone carries unspoken truths within them, that everyone has layers of protection formed by both love and hurt. And the patience you offer yourself is also a way you quietly help make the world a little less harsh. As you sit with this feeling, without judgment, without rushing, you sense a very subtle movement, as if something inside you is being rearranged piece by piece. No effort required, no forcing, just a very deep permission. And from that quiet space, a new feeling begins to form. The sense that what has passed no longer holds you in place, and what is coming will no longer require you to shrink back in fear. And as that feeling settles within you, very gently, you begin to notice something you were never quite calm enough to face before. What is happening now does not carry the taste of loss, the way you once feared it would. There is no loud collapse, no door slamming shut behind you. Instead, it feels like late afternoon, when the sunlight is no longer harsh, only a soft golden hue resting over everything, just enough to let you know that a long day is coming to a close in the most natural way. You have walked a road where endurance slowly became a habit, not because you enjoyed it, but because you did not see another option. You learned to push a little longer, to hold on a little more, believing that if you were patient enough, persistent enough, things would eventually change. And they did change. Only the price you paid was a fatigue that gathered over years, quietly, steadily, like water wearing down stone. Now, standing where you are, looking back without the sharpness of emotion, you can finally see this clearly. No pain exists without purpose. The experiences that once drained you, have completed their role. They taught you about your limits, about the true value of kindness, and about what you can no longer carry if you wish to live more lightly, not to harden you, but to awaken you. At times, you may still feel a sense of emptiness, like a familiar room that has just been cleared, old furniture removed, new pieces not yet placed. But this emptiness is no longer threatening. It does not swallow you whole. It is simply the space you need to breathe more deeply, to hear your inner voice more clearly, and to realize you are no longer trapped in the same cycle as before. You begin to sense a very subtle shift in how you respond to life. Things that once exhausted you no longer strike with the same force. Not because you have grown numb, but because you're no longer standing in the same place where you were once hurt. Something within you has matured, quietly, without announcement, like the end of a season. The tree does not force its leaves to fall. They simply know when it is time to let go. And in that stillness, you may feel a very gentle confirmation that you do not need to keep enduring in order to deserve something better. That what you have lived through was not a sentence, but a complete process. Every time you stood back up, every time you chose to continue even when you were exhausted, all of it has carried you to this place where fatigue is no longer the center of your story. Perhaps the most beautiful part of this moment is that you no longer feel the need to rush toward anything else. You do not need to be happier right away, stronger right away, more successful just to prove you have moved on. Allowing yourself to stay with this lighter feeling a little longer is enough for a new rhythm of life to begin forming. A rhythm not built on tension, but on a deep understanding of yourself. And if you listen closely, within this very new sense of calm, you will notice a space opening ahead of you. Not to test you again, but to support you differently. As if after a long cycle has closed, life itself is gently shifting, preparing to place in your hands a softer experience, one where you no longer have to trade your peace just to keep moving forward. And as you stand within that just enough space, where nothing is pulling you back toward the old patterns, a very different feeling begins to spread through you. Not loud, not dramatic, just a subtle shift in how you are present with life. You no longer tense yourself in anticipation. You no longer try to predict every situation, just to protect yourself. Something is quietly rearranging itself inside you, like the surface of a lake after a long wind. The water does not try to be calm. It simply returns to its natural state. From this moment on, you begin to notice that the things which once shook you no longer reach you so easily. Not because you have closed yourself off, but because you are finally standing in the right place for yourself. The protection you feel does not arrive as a thick wall. It appears more like a clear, gentle light. It helps you see what belongs to you and what does not, who may step closer and who needs to stop. And somehow, you do not need many words for this to be understood. You start to sense the difference in the most ordinary interactions. Words that once hurt you now pass through without staying behind. Requests that once felt heavy no longer carry the same sense of obligation. You have not become colder. You have simply become more honest with yourself. And that honesty creates a very gentle kind of boundary, one that does not wound anyone, yet is strong enough to keep you whole. You may even be surprised to see how things that no longer fit begin to leave on their own. No arguments, no long explanations, no exhausting confrontations. They simply lose their place in the new space you are stepping into. Like shadows retreating when the light changes. You are not pushing them away. You are simply remaining in your awareness. This awareness does not come from learning something new. It comes from remembering what you have always known. That you do not need to sacrifice your peace to keep harmony. That saying no does not make you selfish. That truth, even when spoken gently, still carries the power to bring clarity. And when things become clear, you no longer have to fight. You may notice your reactions slowing down to old triggers, not because you do not care, but because you feel safe enough to pause before responding. In that pause, you gain the freedom to choose your response instead of being pulled along. That is when you realize that true strength is not found in controlling everything, but in holding yourself steady within the flow of life. There is something deeply human in this kind of change. When you live with clear boundaries and quiet awareness, you are not only protecting yourself, you are allowing others to take responsibility for their own path. You no longer carry for them. You no longer rescue. You no longer fix. You respect each journey, even when that means you no longer walk the same road together. And it is this respect that allows the relationships that remain to become healthier and more real. In this new space, you no longer need to prove that you are strong. You also no longer need to hide your softness. Both can exist together, and when they do, you become steady in a way that is uniquely your own. Pisces, you are still you, with a sensitive heart and deep intuition. The difference now is that you no longer allow the world to enter the place that needs the most care. And as you move forward with this sense of being supported, you begin to see that the road ahead no longer feels like a battle. It feels more like a journey guided by clarity and trust. You may not know exactly what is coming next, but you do know this: you will no longer have to carry everything on your own. There is a deep reassurance here, enough to let you keep walking forward with a lighter heart and a clearer gaze. And within that very deep sense of reassurance, you begin to feel another movement drawing closer. Not a blinding light that demands immediate change, but something warm enough, like a misty morning, when a new day opens without startling you awake. You do not need to chase it. You only need to stay still and allow it to arrive at your own rhythm. Pisces, something important is unfolding, even if you have not named it yet. You are not simply recovering from old wounds. You are being rearranged from the inside out, as if your inner compass has just been gently realigned. Choices that once left you confused begin to feel clearer, not because all the answers appear at once, but because you have stopped asking from a place of fear. You begin listening from a place of stillness, where your intuition has always been strongest. You will notice this shift in very ordinary moments, an invitation that arrives at the right time without pressure, a chance encounter that feels strangely familiar, an idea that surfaces without anxiety, only a quiet sense of excitement. None of these moments are loud, none of them demand attention, but they all share one thing in common. They do not ask you to become someone else. You do not need to strain. You do not need to prove anything. You simply need to be yourself, and that alone is enough for doors to open. You may have once believed that opportunity must come in the form of major challenges, bold decisions, or dramatic breakthroughs. But now, you are learning a different lesson. What is truly right for you arrives through resonance. It does not pull you away from your natural softness. It supports it. The new people entering your life do not bring a sense of caution. They arrive with natural respect, with a rhythm that aligns, as if two streams find one another without needing to change direction. The resources you need appear in the same way, not as an overwhelming leap, but as pieces that fit. Support in the right place, guidance at the right moment, a space that feels safe enough for you to grow without trading away your peace. You begin to see that when you stop resisting yourself, life also stops resisting you. There is something deeply human about this process. As you walk more gently, you are not only opening a path for yourself, but for those around you as well. You show them that not every journey must be painful to be meaningful. That kindness towards oneself can exist alongside growth. That intuition, when trusted, can guide with surprising precision. You can feel trust returning, not blind trust, but grounded trust. You trust your ability to choose. You trust the inner signal when it says this is right, and that is not yet necessary. And when that trust becomes steady, you no longer rush. You allow things to arrive in their own order. In quiet moments, you will notice your inner world growing brighter, not because everything is perfect, but because you know you are moving in the right direction. This light does not ask you to abandon the past. It simply helps you look back with gratitude and then set it down gently. You carry the lesson, not the weight. And as you continue forward with this sense of being guided, you will realize that the road ahead does not feel unfamiliar at all. It feels familiar in a very deep way, as if you have dreamed of it for a long time and only now are calm enough to step into it. There is no need to hurry. As long as you keep listening, as long as you keep trusting your own rhythm, that light will always stay close enough to guide your way and warm enough to remind you that you are being supported with every step you take. And as that light stays within you long enough, no longer something you need to chase or hold on to, a very deep permission begins to take shape. Not permission from the outside world, but from within yourself. A gentle acknowledgement that you no longer have to keep pushing to be worthy of something good. That you do not need to become stronger just to be seen. Sometimes, the greatest strength is the ability to stop without feeling guilty. That sacred presence does not arrive with commands. There are no demands. No pressure to become a better version of yourself overnight. Only a message that is clear and deeply compassionate, touching the place where you have been most tired. You have done enough. You have come far enough. Everything that needed to be proven was proven long ago, and the way you continued to live with kindness, even when your heart was no longer whole. Now, as you allow your breath to slow, you begin to understand that rest is not giving up. It is restoration. It is the quiet space your soul needs to return to its natural rhythm. You do not need to disappear from the world. You do not need to run away or close yourself off. You only need to stop forcing yourself to carry more than you can right now. You only need to allow yourself to receive, instead of always being the one who gives. At first, receiving may feel unfamiliar. You are used to offering care, understanding, patience. But when you begin to let goodness reach you without questioning it, something different emerges. Not weakness, but a steady softness. You do not lose your sensitive nature. You simply stop using it to hurt yourself. In this peaceful space, you can look back on your journey with new eyes, no longer blaming yourself for enduring too long, no longer grieving what did not work out. You begin to see the quiet beauty in every step, even the exhausted ones. You understand that every experience played a role in bringing you here, to a place where you can finally lie down without needing to stay alert. A future is waiting for you, not to test you again, but to walk with you in a gentler way. It does not ask you to abandon who you are. It does not force you to change your nature. It simply invites you to slow down, to live more honestly, to live with deep respect for yourself. And you will notice that when you stop trying to be strong, your natural strength begins to shine in a quiet, enduring way. As you close this moment, no ritual is needed, no promises required, just one deep breath. And you will know that you are entering a different phase, a phase where gentleness is no longer seen as weakness, where you are allowed to choose peace without explanation, where you no longer have to fight to stay connected to yourself. Carry this feeling with you, not as an expectation, but as a soft reminder that you are allowed to rest, that you are enough, and that life, when it meets you in this calm state, responds with sincerity and with something that lasts. There is no need to rush, no need to prove anything. Just be there, fully present, and allow yourself to move forward in a gentler rhythm, where strength and peace are no longer in opposition, but exist together within who you are.